Welcome to the Laverne Church of the Brethren's weekly audio message. Here at the Laverne Church of the Brethren, we create a Christian community called by Christ to be inclusive, caring, and peace-minded. We affirm that people of any race, ethnic identity, gender identity, sexual orientation, ability, age, economic status, faith tradition, or life situation are welcome in our congregation. We believe in compassionate service, stewardship of creation, respect for diversity, and nonviolent reconciliation for differences among all people, nations, and faith traditions. We claim no creed but the New Testament as exemplified by the life of Christ. We strive to follow the way of Jesus. And through these efforts, we seek to grow ever closer to the mind and heart of God. And now let us ground ourselves as we enter into today's message. Today I'm joined by Dr. Eric Bishop and Sara Davis. Dr. Bishop is a longtime member of this congregation. He serves on the Envisioning Commission as well as provides leadership denominationally. He's the interim vice president of enrollment management at the University of Laverne and serves on various boards in our community, seeking to make our world a better place. I've had the privilege of hearing Eric preach over the years, and I'm always encouraged and challenged by his words. So I'm looking forward to listening to him today as he will be bringing the message.
I'll be reading Genesis 21, 1 through 20. The Lord dealt with Sara as he had said, and the Lord did for Sara as he had promised. Sara conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at a time of which God had spoken to him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to his son, whom Sara bore him, and Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Now Sara said, God has brought laughter for me. Everyone who hears will laugh with me. And she said, who would ever have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. The child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, playing with her son Isaac. So she said to Abraham, cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not inherit along with my son Isaac. The matter was distressing to Abraham on account of his son. But God said to Abraham, do not be distressed because of the boy and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you, for it is through Isaac that offspring shall be named for you. As for the son of the slave woman, I will make a nation of him also, because he is your offspring. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, along with the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered about in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was gone, she cast the child under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat down opposite him a good way off, about the distance of a bow shot. For she said, do not let me look at the death of the child. And as she sat opposite him, she lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the boy, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, what troubles you, Hagar? Do not be afraid, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Come, lift up the boy and hold him fast with your hand, for I will make a great nation of him. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. She went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. God was with the boy, and he grew up. He lived in the wilderness and became an expert with the bow. He lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother got a wife for him from the land of Egypt.
Good morning. There's a meme that floats around social media every now and then, and it catches my attention. It says, people were talking to me about 30 years ago, and I think they're talking about the 1970s. And then I realized they're talking about the 1990s. And I'm like, oh. I'm of such an age that I remember growing up on Saturday morning cartoons and 5 television channels. But a particular cartoon short called Schoolhouse Rock. And one in particular that I remember, The Great American Melting Pot, was supposed to celebrate the mixing of our cultures. A portion of the lyrics are, America, and I'm not going to sing because that's why I'm not in the choir. America was founded by the English, but also by the Germans, Dutch, and French. The principle still sticks. Our heritage is mixed. So any kid could be the president. You simply melt right in. It doesn't matter what your skin. It doesn't matter where you're from or your religion. You jump right in. To the great American melting pot, the great American melting pot. Oh, what a stew, red, white, and blue. We know today that that is less true than it was some 50 years ago. And the idea has changed that we are less like a melting pot where assimilation is the central theme and more like a chef's salad. That in the melting pot, all individuality is lost into one flavor or taste. And the salad allows for the individual ingredients to maintain their shape, style, and flavor. And while individually each can be good, together they create exciting new tastes for the palate. It's of note that each ingredient that comprises that salad, whether vegetable or fruit, originates in some form from the earth. Likewise, we should note that each of us, regardless of our background, originates from God. And whether you are following a following of Isaac or Ishmael, your story originates from Abraham. Whether you follow the Holy Bible or the Quran or the Tanakh, your story originates from Abraham. If we are honest with ourselves, then we know that family can be one of our greatest joys. And if we are honest with ourselves, then we admit that family are one of our greatest pains and annoyances. So there's no wonder that in the most simplistic non-theologian terms, that many of the divides in our society emanate from a rift between two brothers, a rift in family. So why is our world so complicated? So why are we so separated like oil and water? I drew the title of today's sermon from Amir Hussein, whose book of the same title highlights how Muslims and Christians, descendants of Ishmael and Isaac and of Abraham, have as much in common than difference. He summarizes his book in the last sentence: God's peace and blessing are meant to be shared equally among all God's children. Why can't we start there? But we know that sibling sharing can be a wonderful experience and can also be non-existent. As we watch Christian and Islamic and Jewish behavior in our larger world right now, we cannot help but ask, and from where is their faith centered that approves of actions such as those? The term Christian, in its most simplified definition, says relating to or professing Christianity or its teachings. I wonder sometimes if people realize that the root of Christian or Christianity is actually Christ, as in Jesus Christ. It shouldn't take an EDD to figure that out. Oil and water alone, they do not mix well. But if with them you add some flour, salt, and yeast, they can produce a loaf of bread. And now we have flavor and sustenance. Maybe that's the secret. We need to bring more than our simple selves to the conversation. We need to bring seasoning and context. That's where the salad bowl differentiates itself from the melting pot. The melding of ingredients or identities creates a single flavor, even if it's delicious, while the combined experience of the different flavors of the salad can allow for a deeper flavor experience as we have to wrestle with the individual flavors and the combined taste. The current state of our society hardly represents what we would expect of any religion. Rather, it is providing a historic and sometimes horrific visual of the worst caricatures of our various religions: dirty water and used oil. We watch a world embroiled in Islamic-Jewish conflict, Islamic-Christian conflict, Jewish-Christian conflict, and even worse, intra-faith Christian-Christian conflict, particularly watching Christians try to out-Christian each other and none actually following the teachings of Christ. Being a Christian, or better yet, a person of religious faith, has become more about proclaiming it than actually being it. In our worst representation of humanity, we judge on merely what we think we see. And just as all clear liquids are not water or oil and may not be good for you, neither are all pretenses of religions good for you. I have the pleasure of working with a Persian Christian. She's even preached in this church, and yet she is judged on spec as being Muslim, because that is how she looks and how we gauge our religion meters. Her faith and religion are not worn as a badge, yet her actions display her Christian beliefs. Her patience with the mean-spirited and those who do not agree with her shows her humanity. Though I imagine if she were Muslim, her behavior would not alter, because the faith we follow does not dictate how we treat each other. Both the Quran and Bible teach kindness. She has stories of harassment just blocks from here by people I imagine sit in Christian pews on Sunday mornings, or maybe they don't. Remember, it was an American Muslim who once said the most segregated hour in America is high noon on Sunday, referring to the hour in which people attend church, an hour with our melting pot simmering and our Christianity supposedly in action. If you looked at me and didn't know me, many would likely believe that I might be Christian, but of the Baptist ilk. And yet there would be likely little surprise if I was Muslim. It's not just about judging of what our faith journey we are on, but what kind of Christian we are, or what kind of Muslim we are. I wear an ankh every day. Unlike today, it is not visible. I wear it under my clothes because it is not about showing it to others. It is a personal reminder of what my faith means to me. And just for the educator in me, I have to share that an ankh is an ancient Egyptian hieroglyph signifying life. It is a cross surmounted by a loop and known in Latin as cruz asante, or handle-shaped cross. As a vivifying talisman, the ankh is often used or offered by gods. For me, wearing the ankh is the equivalent of wearing the traditional cross. But the symbol is meaningless if my behaviors do not honor those behaviors to which I am to be reminded. The complexity of religion can only be magnified by the complexity of humans. The binding of the two would be to allow humanity to lead human nature. Thus, we may have fewer people harmed by intentional systemic oppressors. Dr. Hussein's work pulls us to explore and understand how Christians and Muslims are closer than they are further apart, and how, if we try, we could actually learn from each other and be better in our faith journeys and our humanities. If you buy my earlier premise that we are different branches of the Abraham family tree, then we are at worst cousins. I think many of us could admit that sometimes the relationships with cousins are better than relationships with siblings, maybe because the competition for attention is lessened. Dr. Hussein, in his reflection on what Muslims can learn from Christians, says, again leans into Wilford Cantfield Smith. Faith is a personal matter. This is the heart of interfaith dialogue, because institutions and organizations do not dialogue, people do. Transformed relationships and understanding come from the discussions that take place between people. The first step towards learning about Islam, then, is not to pick up the Quran and begin reading, or to observe prayer at a mosque. One starts by finding a Muslim friend with whom to speak. After all, it was not the Church of the Brethren who walked and stood in front of the Islamic Center of Claremont post 9/11, or on other necessary occasions when our Muslim brethren needed us. It was individuals from the Laverne Church of the Brethren. It was Christians who cared enough to cross the boundaries of faith to mix. It was acting out Christianity as Christ would not have directed but would have himself done. I have many friends and acquaintances who profess to be Christian, but I pause as they seem to not be able to move past the idea or institution of Christianity versus the humanity of being a Christian. The institution would rather we melt into an ideal of Christianity, whereas the salad allows our humanity and the flavors of our identities to deepen the act in Christianity. If I'm not willing to cross the boundaries of faith for humanity's sake, mix my water with oil, then whether I wear the ankh or a cross every day is irrelevant, for I am betraying the intended symbolism with the behavior. I sum up this message with a story Dr. Hussein tells of Professor Smith that he says could apply equally to Muslims and Christians. A student, not knowing that Professor Smith was an ordained Presbyterian minister, asked him, "Professor Smith, are you Christian?" If the question had been, "Are you a Christian?" the answer would have been a simple yes. Instead, the question required a deeper answer. Professor Smith thought for a moment and repeated the question, "Am I Christian?" "I don't know. Maybe I was last week on a Tuesday at lunch for about an hour. But if you really want to know, ask my neighbor." To Professor Smith, it was clear that his Christian identity was best measured by how he treated people around him, by living his life in an integrated whole. We should all reflect in such a manner, be us Muslim or Christian, or even human. Amen.
We're so glad that you listened to the message today. If you're looking for an open and affirming, peace-loving, and justice-seeking congregation, consider visiting us for in-person worship on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. We'd love to meet you.